I'm just now learning that my friend is a liar. I think he told me there was going to be 4 people here. I'm pretty sure that's what you said. So this is not 4. So I'm Kurt. That's my wife Bonnie back there. We don't always dress alike, but when we do, it's usually we're wearing purple or lavender. She is the maker of the bunch. Okay, so I'm like the mouthpiece, and she's the creative one that actually makes all this stuff. She tells me to farm and grow lavender and bring it inside, and then she takes care of the rest. So I had some slides up at the very beginning, just some different pictures of our farm and some of the plants and some of the process and stuff like that. So I just had that looping through. So I won't, you're gonna forget this is even up here. Just basically have a couple of talking points and just kind of tell you what we do, and then open it up to some questions. We got some free stuff back there in the back. So normally I don't say that right away, because that's usually when everybody gets up and walks to the back, and then I'm talking to one person. So Bonnie, you can't give them to them until I'm done, okay? So don't give me the free stuff, all right? So like I said, I'm Kurt and Bonnie, or Kurt, my wife is Bonnie. Hornbeck is a town of about 400. We live about 5 miles outside of the town going towards Toledo Bend. So we're literally, Hornbeck's nowhere, and we're 4 miles from nowhere. When we get out there, we're surrounded by, I think our closest neighbor is about 1.5 miles from us, and we're 1.5 miles down a dirt road, and timber company all around us. And so we've got about a 140-acre farm or so, mostly timber. I'm not from there. I'm from Houston, Texas. Bonnie is from Texas. She grew up in Hornbeck. Her mom is from there, and so sometime around 2nd or 3rd grade, her family went back over to Hornbeck, and then she came back to Houston, met me, drugged me back to Hornbeck, and 2 or 3 times I escaped, and this last time I ran out of money and the willpower, so I said, okay, we'll stay. So we've been there for about 25 years this last time. We've got a couple of kids and raising a family. Great place to raise a family in a small town. So neither one of us are really like a big history of farmers. Bonnie's an accountant. She's really good with numbers, which is kind of interesting because she's a creative person, but accounting is not very creative, or at least it's not supposed to be. Enron and some other people get real creative with it, but it usually goes bad. So I'm on the other side. I'm an audio video engineer. I install systems, design systems, and put them in large places, churches and stuff like that. But we have this farm that we've had for about 25 years, and so we're getting older, we're getting grandkids, and so we wanted to trap the grandkids there on the farm and entice them to come and stay and cry when they have to leave, that kind of thing. And so Bonnie also is tired of doing accounting, and she's tired of me doing my stuff. So we've been looking at different ways that we could have something farm-based. We really like that idea, and that started driving us. It's really like 3 or 4 things that landed at the same time. She's always liked lavender. Everywhere I go, people always say, lavender, Louisiana, how's that? That doesn't happen. That's not supposed to be that way. For the most part, they're right. I would not recommend you just growing like lavender in Louisiana, having a dream of a commercial, large lavender operation, because it probably won't work. The only way we make it work is we add value to our lavender. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But Bonnie's always liked that plant. We've tried a couple times in a small way to grow it, and had it for a few months or maybe a year, and then it dies, and that's pretty much everybody's story in Louisiana. I had it looked good, it bloomed once, and then it died. I don't know what happened. Everybody kind of goes that way. There's this stuff here that comes in like almost every day called humidity that lavender just does not like, and you can't really get around that, so you have to do some things. So she likes lavender. She really likes high quality, good stuff. She likes good products. The problem is those are expensive. And Hornbeck, there is none really of that stuff that she likes. She likes body products, beauty products, things like that, lotions. And then we had a granddaughter come on the scene, and she was allergic to mosquitoes, or at least that's what we say. The doctors say you can't be allergic to mosquitoes, but I'm telling you, when she gets bit by a mosquito, it's a welt about that big and a blister a little bit smaller, and it lasts for about a month. And so I call that an allergy, but the doctor says no, they're not doing anything, you can't be allergic to it. So we started making some stuff to put on her to treat those mosquitoes, and plus we wanted to try to keep them away at the house. So we were trying all kinds of different plants, and then we discovered, oh, lavender is like a natural repellent for that. And so Bonnie started concocting some things and making a home brew to spray on the kids, to dip in the kids. I mean, whatever we got to do to keep the mosquitoes off our babies. And so that's kind of was the birth of our first product. In fact, it was our first product. It's our very best one. It's called Skeeter Guard, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. It's an all-natural, all-organic mosquito repellent. My granddaughter's mother, is kind of I mean this in the nicest way, but she's like an organic Nazi. She just absolutely is like militant about organic stuff. And so it's got to be organic if it's in her house, if it's on her baby, and all that kind of stuff. So we had to make up something that was all natural, all organic, or my daughter wasn't even going to let us put it on our own grandchild without like court action and stuff like that. So we experimented with some stuff, and it took us a while to get what we really liked, but that was the first product. So that's what started us in the lavender. This was several years ago, and there was a thing going on in Louisiana for about 3 years called a drought, and I really wasn't paying that close attention to it, other than I knew our wells were getting lower and stuff like that. So we tried. That's when we first started lavender and really got things going with lavender, was in the midst of a drought, and it does wonderful in a drought. It's a great drought plant. It's a Mediterranean plant, so it doesn't like humidity. It likes the breeze, and it likes rocky soil. And so we've got very fertile, loamy soil typically in Louisiana, or in some of the farmlands, some clay. And so it doesn't like that. So that's why you don't naturally find it here. So you have to amend, you have to do some stuff with the soil. So anyway, we started it off in the drought, and I think we got about 60 plants and several different varieties. And man, we were real excited. They took off really well, and they bloomed. And we said, man, this is easy peasy. We're going to be like France, and we're just going to grow lavender. And so, man, just cut down a bunch of trees, cleared off a bunch of land, and, off we go. And we planted a lot of lavender. I think today, if I was really honest, I don't say this too often, but I think today I still have killed more lavender than I've grown. I mean, we've planted a lot and tried various different varieties and stuff. So I don't want to give you the idea that like somewhere in Hornbeck, there's these purple mountains, that's just rolling and stuff like that. It's hard to grow. But we grow it, and we grow enough of it and enough good quality lavender. It has to be good to do some of the things you want with the product. So that's why we picked it, mostly because I do what my wife says to keep peace in the house. She says, I want to try that. And so we started off, we kind of said, can we do a business with this? And so we looked at a couple of different things. And what we wanted to do, we really wanted to do some stuff with the farm, with the animals and some of the other plants. We grow more things besides lavender, but that's kind of like the star. And so we thought it would be really good how could we do this to where we can grow these things and like people would pay us to grow these things, or like people would maybe just pay us to come watch us grow these things, or people would pay us to just come see that we grew these things. And so we started going to these places and looking at that, because we didn't really have that much to give them. We wanted just to like them come and maybe take a picture, like buy some lemonade, that was like enhanced and pay like 3 times the street value for it, or, like a really high priced barbecue sandwich or something would be awesome, That's the kind of thing that we was looking at. Kind of joking, but not really. I mean, we was trying to figure out how can we bring people here, because we wanted to do some things, mostly for the granddaughters, but said somebody's got to pay for this big, huge bird thing that you want me to build. And so we started looking at all the different models, and so agritourism is really what we kind of settled on, and that's our main goal. We're not quite there yet. We haven't opened the doors yet. I'll tell you some of the challenges with that, but that's where we're going. So to get to agritourism, we did a couple of things along the way. So Bonnie, she started making all kinds of different products, experimented with a lot of different things, and so we had to grow, and we had to take those products and sometimes process those products, and then turn around so that she could make it into some of the things that she makes. So we experimented with that, and that went really good. And so we said, okay, now how can we get these products out to the marketplace? And so we started doing for a couple of years just a series of shows. We would just do the fairs, and we would do the festivals, and we would do some of the farmers markets, but a lot of the things like, the junior leagues would host a fundraiser, and they would have, we love junior league shows, by the way. If you know any good junior league shows, just tell Bonnie about those, and we'd like to hear about those. We go all over the place to go find junior league shows, because it just so happens that most people, most of the women, and most of our products are women's products, most of the women that go to that just kind of fit perfectly into sort of our niche. They like high quality stuff. They like handmade stuff. They like organic stuff. And they really like knowing the person that made the stuff. The fact that it's not made in China or something like that, they really like that idea that they can meet somebody that had their hands on or hands in the process. And so we started finding shows and finding markets like that so that we could continue to grow the stuff. Bonnie could make it, and we could more or less test the market. That was our way of seeing how well the products are received, and then just continue to grow our product line. We started off with small booths and 15 products and stuff like that, and we thought, man, that's so much. 15 products, I mean, golly, that's a lot of products. And then it kind of grew, and it's just, I long for the day of just, it was 15 products, because now it's a trailer full of stuff, that's coming in there. So that's mostly was our second phase. First, to test, see if we could grow the stuff, see if we could make the products, and then move those products to the marketplace. The second phase that we went into is we added our online store. And that's been really helpful when you leave a show. You can leave an experience, you can leave a product, you can leave a business card, but it's sometimes hard for them to connect. So obviously today's the day of the internet world, and so that's most how our customers continue to follow us, is through that and through the social media, which again, Bonnie kind of pretty much keeps track of all that. So our second phase was to get that area going, and then the third phase is to get our farm open, and that's been one of the more challenging areas to get that up. We don't have an unsafe farm, I don't think, by any means. My grandkids come there and play all the time. But there's a big difference between having a place and then enticing someone to come. And that's how the lawyers look at it. You put up a sign, you have a card, you got a product, you enticed my client to come to your place. You trapped them, and it has to be safe. Louisiana's got some really good laws, agritourism laws, that basically cuts out a lot of the frivolous stuff. I don't know if you know this, but if you twist your ankle, like at a place of business, the going rate is about $9,000 is what you kind of get for that. That's today's kind of twisted ankle. Not break your ankle, twist your ankle. And so on a farm, there's a lot of ways you can twist an ankle. I mean, you can just walk across and trip it on the grass. And so there's all kinds of things that we have to do to make sure our farm is safe, essentially to invite somebody realistically safe to come onto a somewhat dangerous, potentially dangerous area. And so it's a process that you go through to get everything checked off, and you got to have a lot of hand washing stations, you got to have a lot of signage, you have to have a lot of manuals and procedures, and saying this is our trails that they walk on, and our procedure is every Monday we send Bill out to walk the trails, and he makes note of any pothole that might be there, and he puts a flag in it. And then by Tuesday, Bill comes back and he fills up the pothole. And that's our procedure. And so if you do that, that's a realistic plan. You're keeping the place safe. You're not letting some ravine wash through and tell somebody go this way to see something, and off the cliff they go. It shows that you're doing your part, and you're being reasonably safe in a potentially dangerous area. What we've learned is a lot of people, I'm a city guy myself. We've had this place for a couple of decades, but I still consider myself a city folk. But there's a lot of city folk that have never, they've almost never seen grass, it seems like. And so a lot of things you just assume is kind of common sense. That common sense is out the door, it's gone. People don't understand agriculture on farms and things like that. So part of our mission is we want to kind of, we feel like correct that, A lot of kids, when you say tomato, what do you think of? Well, they think of the 4-pack in Walmart with cellophane on it. That's their idea of what a tomato is. They don't know it's on a vine or something like that. So we want to help educate, again, back to agricultural areas and farming and stuff like that. So that's what we're in the process of getting approved and certified. And so once you get all those ducks in a row, then you can go to your insurance agent and you can say, hey, look, I'm approved and certified, and they kind of have that rate for you. And you have to be like Bill Gates to get the other rate, so you want to get certified, and then they know that realistically you've got a good plan, you're safe, and you have this policy and this way of adding things to there, and they're really tough on animals and all that kind of stuff, and how do you keep the animals away from anything, and that's just farm stuff. that there's a whole nother layer if you're actually going to eat something from the farm. If you're just going to have like a goat or something like that, a petting zoo, or see something grow. But if you're going to actually eat something that came from there, and we thought, well, lavender, not so much, like it's body butter, but you don't put it on bread, you put it on your torso, you rub it in. It's not that kind of butter. But then we started coming up with products that we thought would be really good, like our lavender syrup. Pure cane syrup, but it's enhanced and infused with lavender, some fresh lavender. So amazing syrup. It'll change your life, I'm pretty sure. You should probably get some lavender syrup and then just be ready for the next level in life. It's really, really good. We started doing some teas. We don't grow tea, but we buy some of the best teas, different ingredients, and we blend those together with our lavender, and we have a couple of different blends. And so we have to have, our lavender has to be culinary grade, the lavender that we use. And so, in fact, Bahia, am I saying that right? I always say Bahia, but am I saying that right? I just heard John say it different.
Talking about the grass?
No, not the grass, my friend. That's what I always say, Bahia, And I know I did that before, and she just did like she does right now, just kind of laughed that off. She's probably heard that 1,000 times. Am I saying it right? I want to say it right. I don't want to sound like I'm from Vernon Parish or something like that. Yeah. Bahia. I think that's how John said it, Bahia. So anyway, she's helping us to get some of our procedures in place for the food type things. So the lavender that's culinary lavender that you might sprinkle on your potatoes or on your roast before you make it. It's delicious. It's got a blend of other herbs in there. And so that has to be handled and processed completely separate from your lavender that's going to wind up in your soaps or in your lotions or something like that. So she's helping us with those products, develop a nice plan that meets everybody's approval, keeps everybody happy, and we want to be safe. No question about that. We're not trying to cut any corners. Even when we don't understand the corner, we're still trying to follow that. But sometimes it's very confusing and hard to understand what the intent is. And so she's very good at understanding the intent and helping us with that. So that's the process they're in right now. Once we get those things all checked off, well, then we'll open up the big purple gate, as we call it. We have a big purple gate that we had to put in a purple gate when we started this business. Nobody ever came to see us, ever. Never. We live way down a muddy road, and they go, oh, there's no way I have to wash my car if I go visit them. Nobody would, even our family, no, we're not coming to see y'all. It's too far down that dirt road. The word got out that we were growing lavender, and I mean all hours of every day and night, there's people coming out there. And so we had to literally put up a gate. I was in the house not too long ago, and I don't do something. I was all by myself there, and it was kind of quiet, and I just started hearing voices, and which, to some of my family is normal, but for me that's not usual. And I started hearing these voices. And I couldn't tell it was different voices, and they were having a conversation, and they were, and I just like, is it a TV on? Is my phone? Did somebody put like a stupid ringtone on my phone that's? I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And so this went on for like 10 minutes, which is like a long time. And then it just kind of like, I heard a noise, and it was the gate to my chicken yard opening up. It's kind of unusual sound that, and I recognize that sound anywhere. And I'm like, the chickens are talking now. I got to go see this. So I ran out there, and I was not prepared for company. And so I walk out there, and there's like a family of like 8 out there, and they're just, she's telling them all about the chickens and when she was raised, and just people walking all over the place. And again, that doesn't really freak me out, other than the fact that, if they got hurt, well, then that would be on me. So we had to start gating and fortifying the place, because I'm telling you, lavender lovers are some of it's like a cult that's like par excellence. They are really avidly strong supporters of their flower, and they go after that. They'll go for no ends. We'll be someplace, and somebody calls and says, hey, yeah, I found you, and we've taken our address off of almost everything, and I found you, but there's a purple gate. How do I get past the gate? And we're not at home or anything like that, and we're like, you can't yet, so hang on and wait there 6 more months maybe, and we'll be right there. So it's just, we're right on the edge. We want to welcome people, but we want it to be safe, and we don't want to get sued and lose the farm, literally. So that's what we're doing. We have some unusual challenges so far that we weren't really anticipating. That drought really kind of skewed things, because we got off such a good start with our plants, and then Last year and this year, I don't know if you guys know this, but we've had record rains the last 2 years. We're at year to date for our farm, an average is 54 inches of rain annual for our place. We get a little bit less than even 5 miles around us because of some of the terrain, but 54 is like on our place. So right now, today, I think we went to 76, 75.9 today, year to date. Last year was 96. I think we're going to blow that away this year because it's every day, every other. I haven't had 2 non-rain days in a row, and I can't remember when. And so just on the way here, just about to go out and load stuff up in the truck, and it's like this deluge. I mean, I'm not talking about a little drizzle, but we've been getting some rain. And so that's been challenging. It's been stressing some of the plants. And so I have to replant stuff more often. Lavender is a plant that should last about 12 to 15 years. It's not it blooms annually, but you plant it one time in Oregon or Washington, some places up on the East Coast, over in France, they plant it and then, plant it when you're a baby and then you're a teenager when have to replant it. I mean, it's a long life. So on the West Coast, they get 12 to 15 seasons out of that one plant. Well, I get maybe 5, or 6. So I have to plant more often. And probably because I'm doing some things wrong and not doing it as well as they're doing it, that even kind of hangs me up a little bit. So the only way that we can make this work is to grow the right kind of lavender. We've got about as perfect piece of land to grow it on. It's real sandy, so the water dissipates. It's on a hill. It's on like a little ridge where we grow the lavender, so the water gets away from it. The breeze that comes about 80% of the time hits that and goes up the hill, and so it carries the moisture away. So it's a good spot. If we were just on another, on the other side of the hill or further down, it wouldn't be as good. And so we've got a good place to grow it. We've got some good water. We have an artesian spring. That actually goes quite a bit to helping this stuff work so well. Our water, we've tested it. It's actually better water than what they make in the laboratories at hospitals to treat us with. I mean, it is very, very good water. So it's filtered and everything else, but I mean, the water it's really, really good. And so there's some chemical, or not chemical, but what's the stuff called? What's in minerals? There you go. Thank you. There's minerals in there that's very high in mineral content, and the particular ones, the oils actually lock onto it somehow. And so my daughter, who's a biologist and a chemist, tried to explain it to me, and then I got lost. And so I just said, so it's better, is what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? She said, yeah, this is what you want, Dad. So anyway, it works really good. It locks onto those oils, so when you spray it on, it kind of sticks to you without being sticky, and the oils just work well. So we've got some resources. Hornbeck actually is a good resource, like he was talking about. We do have some really creative people there, and so we want to try to use that to work together and maybe have some festivals or have some markets that we could draw people in and not just see one thing but see other things. It would be okay with me if somebody else had a great tract of land that was lavender and wanted to start a lavender farm. I'd help them. I'd tell them everything I did wrong and tell them the 4 things I did right. And 1, I married Bonnie. You can't do that, so you got to find something else. So anyway, I'd tell them all those things I did right, and then because if we had 2, 3, 10 people doing it, it would be an amazing experience. It would be a great draw, because there's towns in Seattle, there's towns in Washington that have, just around lavender, have festivals that draw in millions of people. I mean, these are places out in the middle of nowhere, and they draw in millions of people every year just to come see that purple flower. And so we've got some really good things there. We've got some people that are really keen in Louisiana, especially central Louisiana, on business. So that's a resource that not a lot of places have. So I think for us, it's just a matter of identifying what you've got, what you have to work with. Do you have something unique? Lavender, essential oils, things like that are in the buzz. They have been for a few years, and they will be. So we've got a product that's positioned well. My wife makes some really, really good stuff. And I mean, I'm not just saying that because she doesn't pay me, so I don't have to say that. She has yet to pay me for all the work that I do. So I'm not a paid spokesman, but I got this shirt free. So anyway, it's really good stuff. I mean, some of the best. So that really is helpful. If you got a good product, if you make something really good, if you can find your market, identify your market, and get the product to your market, or bring your market to you, it goes really well. So that's our resources. Is there any questions anybody have? He told me to take about 2 hours, but I'll wrap it up early if you want. Yes, sir.
Do you make lavender beard oil?
yes, we do. That was like the third product. She makes, she probably has, I think back there, is there a 107 back there? There's probably a beard oil back there, a beard balm. Beard oil is pretty much the way to go. You put that in there, and the secret is, I used to always think that it was for your beard, but it's really not. The approach she takes is she puts oils that are really, really good for the skin. I mean, super good for the skin, because she knows if you take good care of the skin, well, then the skin takes good care of the beard. And so there is some conditioning stuff in there, but it's really good for the skin. So it's a really, that's why guys normally that have beards, just, they're kind of always doing this thing right there. And it's not there's anything wrong with the beard, it's the skin is suffering some way. So if you feed the skin will take care, the body will take care of a good beard. So she's got that balm. If you don't like to do the oil, if you like to kind of heat it up, a little bit more beeswax in it. And so it kind of gives a little bit of conditioning, hold. And then we got the wax for the guys that just like to play with it, so they put it on there and they just twist it and play with it, for hours. We take care of them too. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
How many people work with you?
Pardon me?
How many people?
How many? Yeah, right now, we don't have like any full-time employees. We kind of use contract because our stuff is all really seasonal. And a lot of those are family members, and so it's a real loose contract basis. It's like, so you come help me, we'll feed you, that kind of thing. So we're able, but we're right at the point where we're looking at we've got to hire some people because we have to do some things over time that we can't keep up with. We're in the process of remodeling a 100-plus-year-old house that's on our farm that'll be our kind of where our exhibit's at, sort of like a museum, sort of a farming museum. We got a lot of farm stuff in there, and then that'll be where the gift shop's at and stuff like that. So as soon as we get that ready, should be the last piece, some certification stuff, and then we'll be able to open the door to that. And we'll have to have someone there, for the most part. We'll need people to take them on tours. So we really are keen on the education. I mean, it would be okay with us if it's just school kids coming on. I mean, we want everybody, but boy, that's what we're going to target because they like to come, they like to learn. The teachers want something new to show them, and so they want to expand, instead of going to not knocking it, but the same 3 things maybe that they've got that they've been doing for years. And all the teachers love lavender, so that works really well for us too. So we're going to hook them up, Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we do. We sell bundles. So most of ours right now, because of the types that we're growing, the particular kinds, the commercial growers, they have, it's almost like a hybrid lavender. Nobody hybridized it. It was just naturally happened, but it's an intermediate that everyone kind of likes. And so one of the things they like about it, it has lots of flowers, pretty good smell, pretty good oil, but what they really like about it, the blooms come all in 2 weeks period. So they can hire up, when the blooms are there, they hire everybody up, they cut it, and then they let everybody go. So they love that. Whereas the kind that we like, that kind of do better here, they tend to have like 3 or 4 blooms. So they have a little bit in July, and a little bit in August, and maybe a little bit in September, and maybe somewhere in between. So it's kind of the older style. So what happens, to answer your question, we're not going to make the quantity to where we can just sell drums of buds or volumes of fresh cuts. We're almost using every single bit that we get, but we do sell the dry buds. We sell them in the sachets, we sell them in the pillows, we sell them just in bags, we sell them in the culinary, but we're not at a point yet where we're producing enough volume where we could give somebody like a 10-pound sack. For us, we'd have to look at it and they go, that's like 1 month's of lotion. No, I can't charge you enough for it because that's all my lotion is wrapped up in there. So that's kind of where we're at. We hope one day to be able to, just sell in volume, but we're just really kind of not pursuing that real aggressively. We want to add the value to the product. That's about the only way that we can really compete. Any other questions? Yes.
Can you do a quick recap of how you go from a plant to an essential oil?
Yes, ma'am. So most of the plants start off with cuttings. They're not seeds. So you start off with a cutting from another plant. So you can go to a nursery and they'll take a cutting and they'll start it off in their root stimulator and they'll put it in the plant and it'll go, and it's about 6 weeks old at that point when it's in a 3-inch plant and it's about that tall. It's actually got a root structure and it's actually goes. So that's how most people will start that are commercial, will start with the plant like that. So you put that in the ground and it grows. It'll have some blooms in the first year, and you do one of the most painful things known to mankind. You nip them in the bud before they bloom. And you just look at that and you go, man, all of that and I'm about to kill the bloom. But you do that to kind of force the root growth. So that's another thing that makes it tough on me. If I've got 6 years and I'm killing the first year of my blooms, I've killed 1/6 of my possibilities, whereas that's just 1 out of 15 for them. So it's more expensive for me to do that, so more painful. We do that. We cry, we pray, we have counselors come in and talk to us and all that kind of stuff. It's a tough time, but anyway, cut those. So then the next year you come back and that's when you get some good blooms. So you start getting good blooms from there, particularly the 3rd year. So you cut the blooms, you use it's like a little hook. You just kind of get really good at grabbing a bunch, cutting them. There's one of the pictures on there, you can see them just kind of, you get a bundle of them, you just lay them on top of the plant, just kind of group them together, then you come back and grab those. You take all of those while they're fresh, the stem, the bud, so that stem, that particular kind there, that's a Provence, it'll go down and it'll have a couple more buds at the bottom, so you have one that's about that long. Most of them are at the top, one in the middle and one at the bottom, and so you put that into your distiller, and it's steam distillation is how essential oil is made. So it looks like you're making gin, and people look at you and they go, yeah, lavender, right. Moonshine, I know what you're doing. So it's almost the same process. You put it in there, you have water at the bottom, it has a tray, the steam comes up, you get it to a certain temperature, it comes up, very low pressure, the steam just rises, and it cracks open the buds, which is where the bulk of the oil's at. There's oil in the whole plant, but the bulk of it's in those purple buds and that stem. And so it cracks that open, carries it out on the steam, goes through a condenser coil essentially, and comes back in this thing, and now it's cooled, and so that steam goes back to water, and you're just separating the water from there. So the land's in there and the oil floats to the top, and so you got this little, basically a spot where you're pulling the oil right off of the top, and you're constantly trying to let out a little water because you don't want the water to get up there and start going in there, so you kind of ride that throttle and just do that. And so you take, how much do you make? Well, let's say you have a 1 ounce jar of essential oil would be a pretty big jar of essential oil. How much is is ours ½ ounce? So we have a ½ ounce that we sell, and it would take probably about 2 full plants really blooming well, 2 big plants to make that much oil. Maybe 3. So. But then you have another product, so you're not just making essential oil, you're also making what's called a hydrosol. It's the water that separated and came back together. That's very, very valuable. They used to just kind of throw that away. Then they realized, oh my gosh, what they have. And that's hydrosol is just, it's amazing stuff. It's water, distilled water, but it's got the oil locked into it. You can't separate the two. So if you have a bottle of it, you can't see the oil in there, but it's in there. And so you spray that like pillow spray, air freshener. Man, I got it in my truck. I have that, lemongrass and rose, and I just alternate. I have the most girly smelling truck, but I don't care. I like it. I just pump that stuff. Guys get in and go, is this your wife's truck? And I'm like, no, man. Just it smells good. I like it, but it's a really good air freshener. Linen spray is how some of them will say, but it's hydrosol is the technical one. So that's a good. So you get those 2 products off of there, and you throw the rest away. Any other questions? Does anybody like to weed? Not smoke weed. I mean, do you like to weed, like to pick the weeds? Because I'm looking for weeders, like people that have a passion just to come, and I'll let you just lay down in the lavender and you can just pick the weeds out and become one with the plant. Because I think that's all that I do is I weed. I just plant and I weed. I'm constantly weeding. Lots of weeds to grow in lavender. Yeah, that's Louisiana. Any other questions or anything? Yes, ma'am. Yes. This time we hope to, they'll bring us back, let us talk, and we'll have a tour bus, and we'll just all leave and go out to our place. And so, ready to go.
We like field trips.
Yeah, everybody does, right? Show and tell. Any other questions? I'm sure I missed some things, but my wife can clear up anything that I made confusing. Thank you all for having me, and I'll turn it back over.